I grew some poppies in my garden last year and took some photographs. So I thought I'd work from these as a reference. But here's a little tip. I always take a black and white copy because that way you can see the tones much easier. I'm going to use the grate and shake to just grate a little bit of colour onto the watercolour paper. I'm using the Langton 140 pounds paper here, and it's gummed on 4 sides, so it doesn't move around, which is rather nice. Using a little yellow, using a little bit of orange, and then a touch of that red, just here and there. And then I'm going to use the spritzer to actually set the paint. I could draw with it directly onto the paper. I mean, you know, you can use them exactly like pastels. So I could go in and actually just describe the petals like this, but I'm going to leave that until right at the end. So all I'm after really is a little bit of colour. I'm taking a dark red in, just here and there, just to give it a little bit of depth. I quite like that as it is, but of course it would fly straight off. So using the spritzer and holding the spritzer up quite high so that the water just dissolves the colour a little bit, and that will set it onto the paper. And then I'll get my brush. I'm going to get up close now and just show you how the spritzer, I just love this, dissolves the paint now that it's stopped flying around the paper. And to me, it's a very exciting medium to work in because it's so unpredictable. I have no idea what's going to happen, and I quite like that. I like to find the shapes within the form that is created. So nice and wet. Give it a moment or two to dissolve. And then I'm going to use a big flat brush and just pull some of the paint here and there and create some interesting shapes around your edges, like that. Going to dry my brush off. I don't want too much water at this stage. And keep turning the brush over so that you're getting lights and darks. And it's all just about getting these lovely poppy-like shapes coming in. Adding a bit of water where I need it, bringing these petals down. So although I've got a drawing and a photograph to work from, I'm not really referring to it too much. I want this petal to bend like that. So I'm going to take my brush sideways on and just pull the paint so that I get a little bit of darks and lights going on. And this petal is going to come like that. So I'm just going to catch that great big drip there. Picking up some of the colour from here, just putting a little bud, a little bit of a bud shape in there. So it's all about those negative spaces and just looking for an opportunity to give it a bit of an interesting tweak here and there. It's now completely dry and it's pulled tight, so it does cockle when it's very wet. I'm going to use a water-soluble pencil and just go in and, using my reference photograph, just see where I want the petals to come together. So this is the bottom of the poppy, and that's going to be a petal coming across like that. There's a petal there, a petal there. I'll use a dipping pen, a calligraphy pen, and go in and pull those details out. This petal, I want it to be bending over a bit like that. So it's going to be quite frilly, and the base is going to be coming that way. So I'll go in quite dark. And then, of course, you've got more petals coming this side. You've got a lovely petal coming there, etc. You can, of course, use the ink blocks exactly as they were designed to be used as pastels. So I'm going on, using it sideways on, and pushing quite hard to lay quite a lot of paint into that area. And then I'm going to pick up a flat brush, and it's not too wet, it's actually quite dry. And then just picking up some of the pigment off the actual block itself and washing that in, like that, just to give a little depth of tone here and there. I'm going to move on to this flower on this side, maybe go in and draw with the paint exactly as if it was a pastel. And then using a straight-edged brush called a flat, I'm just going to move that paint around a little bit like that. Beautiful, intense colours coming through. And that's the beauty of it. I don't want to destroy all that texture that I've achieved there. It's really finding what works. And every painting is different. It's lovely and unpredictable. Now I'm going to go in really quite dark behind this little petal here. And I might take it even darker with a touch of black later, just to separate those two edges and give this a little depth of tone. I'm going to use a dipping pen and just work on top of all of this. And of course, you know, you can keep the paint in this little grate and shake container. The water does eventually evaporate, but you can restart it by just adding a bit more water to it, so that your paint is always there. Very handy for traveling with. I'm just going to go around these edges and maybe pull out a little bit of detail. It's all about creating texture, and it's terrific fun to work with. And so I only work a couple of inches at a time, and then come back in and pull the paint in. I need to put the center of the flower in. And what I'm going to do is pick up the black, and using the black as a source of paint really, just refer to my photograph and just draw. Of course you can just draw it with a pencil. I'm just going to go for it and just take it nice and dark just behind these colors here, making sure I've got it in the center like that. Going to show a few little stamens flicking up like that, and then I'm going to use the grate and shake on top of that just to give me a little bit more texture. Now this one is peeking out from behind this folded petal, and so I'm going to go in like that and flick some of these stamens out this way. Of course you can be very botanical about it if you want to be. I quite like working fast and loose and just trying to get the impression of it all. Now I'm going to go back to the grate and shake, and I'm going to put it over the area that I want those little stamens to be, and it's black, so a little goes a long way. I don't want to put too much on, but just a little bit like that, and get the spritzer, hold it up high, and you just want to set that black like that. Any excess paint you can always shake off later. If you need to, it's not a bad idea to take a painting knife and just flatten it a little bit into the paper itself, and that way you're making sure you're getting a little bit of that sort of black pollen, the seed heads, on your poppy. All this excess, the painting underneath is dry, will just shake off, and I can do that later. I'm now going to use some greens and go in, and I can either use a water-soluble pencil and just sketch in where I want my stalks to go. And the secret with flower painting, I went to a workshop. I love studying art, and you've got so many amazing painters in this country, so I quite often go in and study with them. And a lovely person taught me the importance of having a stalk wide enough to hold the flower's head up. So don't put a toothpick on a sunflower, it doesn't quite work. So I'm giving this quite a nice broad stalk, and I'm going to just create a bit of an arrangement. Oh, lovely poppies bud over here, and they do tend to curve and twist like that. So I'll pop that in front with a little bit of a leaf arrangement below it. And that's just drawing it basically out. My hand's a little bit dirty underneath, so I'll just wipe that clean. But, you know, you can lift it off, it's not a problem. I'm now going to use the yellow and the green and paint directly onto my green leaves, putting a little yellow down. Not too bothered if the red paint gets involved. It's all going to contribute. So just using it sideways on and painting with it like that. I'm just wetting the Inktense block and allowing that colour to run. I'm going to join the leaf to the stalk. So using the whole time this very wet into wet technique of painting, and really lots and lots of water. It's quite unpredictable, but it is exciting and wonderful to do. And while it's nice and wet like that, there's nothing nicer than getting a knife into it and scraping it around and creating some exciting shapes. Back into this leaf, cutting back up underneath that flower. Just creating interesting shapes. Picking up some of the green off the actual the inktense bar as well. And running it across here. Just trying to get a little bit of form going. Light to dark, dark to light. I'm now going to go back into the center. I've dried it off, and I think we just need a little bit more detail around the seed head here. And so I'm using a damp brush and just lifting off the paint and really going right into the center of the flower, like that. Can also just use it directly on the flower here as a pastel. I'll just put a few dark bits on. Having a look on this side as well, and I think when I refer to my my photograph, I need to just darken it a little bit here and there, and either with my brush or directly with the paint, just pull some of these very dark bits out, create a bit of texture. While I've got the black in my hand, I'm going to just soften that green off a little bit and take it down to join up. Using the black also just to darken in places. For example, here I'm putting black on top of the red and just taking it a tone darker. And it's all about making the edges stand out. So by darkening this area, I'm making that part stand out a little better. It's just a little tweaking. I can take some of these green stalky bits a little darker in places as well, just like that. So that's my poppies done with Inktense.
Now available to buy. Try these techniques at home whenever you wish. The extended DVD of today's workshop is now available from the Painting and Drawing channel. For further information and to order your copy, go to www.paintingdrawingchannel.com.